the fun continues. So for example 2, we were given a equation that's got letters in it. Yay, letters! Put the alphabet in math, right guys? So it's the same pattern. Obviously you've got root A, so we're just going to treat it the same way we did before. So if I have root A times the root A, it's going to be A, because square root of something squared equals that thing, right? So we're just going to move on with our FOIL and see where it takes us. We start with 3 root A times 4 root A, so we go 3 times 4 gives us 12, and then the root A times the root A gives us A. So we just write down the A. Outside we've got 3 root A times 5. That's easier because we just have to go 3 times 5. There is no root A on this side, so we're just going to go plus 15. The root A just stays there. Inside we've got negative 2 times 4 root A. Same thing. I've got a number times the root A, so it's just going to change the coefficient, which is the big number outside, and not do anything with the root A. It's just going to stay the way it is. So negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Keep the root A there. All good. Now for the final one, we've got negative 2 times 5. Nice and simple. Negative 10. So we look at this and we ask ourselves, is there something we can simplify? Yep. There's the middle term. So we've got plus 15 root A and negative 8 root A. What's 15 minus 8? Positive 7. Good job, kids. I miss you guys. Anyway, so we're going to have the 12A come down here and the positive 7 root A from the combination, I'll make that line thicker, of those two and the minus 10. Now if I look at this, I kind of want to just take a second and ask myself if I can factor anything out of it. No. 12, 7, and 10 don't have any common factors. There's nothing more I can simplify because there's no more like terms, so that's it for this one. I'm going to move on to B, which is ugly. It's just ugly. So this one's nice and tidy. It follows the same patterns. Everything's good. Just going to check my answer and make sure I got the right one. Yay! It worked. So the next one's kind of large, but it's all the same kind of stuff. So I'm just going to take a minute and write it down here. It's huge, but it's the same pattern. So we're just going to follow along with the same kind of thing. I'm just really quickly going to write out, obviously this one is, I can look at it and ask myself if there's a pattern that I can identify that might help me with this, and in fact there is, because this is root x, 2 root y, plus and minus. So this, I'm just going to make a little difference of perfect squares, right? So that's going to help us in a second. All I have to do then is remember that the pattern for a difference of perfect squares is that I square the first term, and I square the last term, and I make the sign in the middle a negative. So rather than FOIL all of this out, and that's going to take quite a bit of space, I'm going to do the shortcut instead, and I'm just going to follow the pattern. Root x times root x is just x. Minus, and then I have to have this 2 root y squared portion, and I just have to go 2 squared is 4, root y squared is y. So this whole thing becomes x minus 4y. It looked ugly, but it actually turns out really neat because difference of perfect squares. Over here though, it's kind of the opposite because now I've got something in brackets squared, which means that in fact it's much more complicated than it looks to start with. So I'm going to have to do this. And that's less than fun. So we FOIL. 3 root x times 3 root x gives me 9x. Outside term, 3 root x times root y just gives me 3 root xy. Inside, 3 root x times root y again gives me 3 root xy. Hopefully I'm not going too far off the page here, but the last part is just root y times root y, which equals y. Now, I can look at that and try to identify any common terms. My middle ones are common terms, so I can add those ones together. So I'll end up with 9x plus 6 root xy plus y. Now remember that we had this part over here that we're going to have to join in for the final answer. So I'm going to have, actually, I got to look for like terms. So I have a 9x and an x. So that gives me, may as well use this color, 10x. And I have my plus 6 root xy, because there's only one over there. But then I have negative 4y here and positive y here, and so I'm going to end up with negative 3y as my total. So all of that looks really nasty, and if you were to have actually FOILed it all out, it would have been really nasty, and it's easy to make mistakes. But if you recognize the patterns and simplify as you go, then we end up with a nice tidy 10x plus 6 root xy minus 3y, and we're done.